Every few weeks, someone sends me a message or email that they believe has a simple answer from me. And every time I read it and I go quiet for a while. It's because I know I am about to disappoint them with my answer. So just last week, I received an email from a reader who wrote, Vishal, is this a good time to invest? Where do you think the market is headed this year? Now, I think it's a fair question, but as always, I had nothing to offer him in terms of a reply. And it's not because I have not thought about this question ever. I have been an investor, an observer of market for the past 23 years now. But I had nothing to give him because the truth is that I don't know and I have never done. And that's the strange thing I want to talk about in today's episode, that not knowing or saying I don't know is, I think, not the flaw in investing. In fact, I believe it's the whole point of investing. Let me explain what I mean. So you see, most of us come to the markets looking for certainty. In fact, I think it's one of those unspoken reasons people are drawn to investing in the very first place. Yes, they talk about compounding and multi-baggers, but beneath all that is a hope that if we just analyze hard enough, work hard enough, and read a lot of annual reports and conference calls analysis and follow enough clever people on the internet who can analyze stocks and sectors for us threadbare, that we will finally arrive at a place where we simply know the future and where the guessing game stops for us. And the reason I know that is because I have myself lived inside such hope for many years. So when I started out in the markets in 2003 as a young equity research analyst, I built financial models with columns stretching 10 years into the future. And sitting in 2005, I could tell you what a company would earn in 2014. In fact, when the Reliance Power IPO came in 2008, and I was writing an IPO report for our clients, I did a discounted cash flow for the company that ran 30, 40 years out just to see if there was any value in it. Of course, there wasn't any value. Now, on paper, all of it looked like knowledge, but when I look back now, I can see it for what it really was. It was simply plain mathematics that was wearing the hat of certainty. And the future for the markets and many stocks I researched those days, the way it always does, went off and did something else entirely. Now, when I look back, I realize that one of the biggest lessons I have learned from my own mistakes and years of learning from some of the market's greats is that the discomfort of not knowing is not a bug you are supposed to fix as an investor. In fact, the discomfort is the system. It is the entire reason stock market returns exist at all. Now, just think about it with me for a moment. If the future of a business was certain, if everyone knew exactly what it would earn and exactly what it was worth, then there would be nothing left in it for you. The price would already be in the answer. Now, it is precisely because nobody knows that things get mispriced, that fear drags good businesses below their real worth, and that patience gets rewarded over time. The markets pay you for sitting with a discomfort that most people simply cannot bear to sit with. In fact, I would even say that the job description of a long term investor is to endure what others cannot. Now, there is a phrase I have thought about, reflected upon for many years, and this is from 1817, where the poet John Keats wrote a letter to his brothers trying to describe the one quality that lets certain people do great work. And he called it negative capability, which is the ability, he said, to stay in uncertainties, in mysteries, in doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. Now, Keats was talking about poets and other literary geniuses when he said that. But I have rarely found a better description of what a good investor actually does. The whole discipline, I think, comes down to learning to live and invest despite the uncertainty, without getting irritated and without grabbing at the first confident market forecast that promises to make the not knowing go away. And honestly, most of what passes for expertise in our world, I think, is just that irritable reaching in disguise. Whether it is the confident market prediction on television or a broker's stock price target calculated to the exact rupee, or even a social media expert or influencer telling you the precise number you need to be financially free. I think they are popular for one very simple reason, which is that they sound soothing. They hand you a number and the number feels like solid earth under your feet. But remember one thing, uh, a number cannot hold your weight. It only feels like it can until the day you lean on it and you fall through. My grandmother, I think, understood all of this long before I could even spell stock market or say stock market. She taught me through her stories that almost all of our suffering in life comes from trying to control things that were never ours to control. And that peace begins the moment you sort the world honestly into two piles. First, what is in your control, and second, what is not. Now, as an investor who takes that lesson seriously, I think he stops trying to control the market and starts tending to the few things that they can actually touch, like how much they pay for stocks or how much they own of any stock or even whether they can sit still or sell in a panic. And this is where the whole thing makes a turnaround. From becoming a burden or from being a burden, I think it turns into something close to beautiful. Once you truly accept that you cannot know the future, you stop building a portfolio that needs one particular future to come true. You start building one that survives many of them. So you leave yourself sufficient margin of safety, which means you pay a price low enough that even a wrong estimate or a wrong guess doesn't ruin you. You also spread your investments well. You diversify well. You holding a little humility about how sure you really are underneath all that confidence that you show. And you also keep some cash aside so that when the fog of uncertainty finally lifts in your favor, you have the freedom to act. Now, just imagine the lightness that comes with living this way. It took me years to feel it. When you stop demanding the world to be certain, I think you leave a great deal of your anxiety behind. You are no longer crushed every time the market forecast turns out wrong because you were never resting your full weight on it. You hold your views loosely, very loosely, and you change your mind without it feeling like a defeat at all. You watch the market do its wild, unknowable dance all the time, and you are not terrified at all because you never once promised yourself it would behave well. I think this is the real gift investing gave me. And it had almost nothing to do with money. It taught me how to live inside uncertainty with uncertainty without even flinching. Because the market, I think, in the end, is only uncertainty which is made visible. Life is uncertain exactly the same way. We just don't get a ticker flashing the price of everything second by second in red and green. We don't know how long we have. We don't know what the next year holds for our children, our health, or our work. We spend enormous energy and time pretending that we do so, building our own private 10-year models, and life keeps politely refusing to cooperate with us exactly the way the market does. So, effectively, when you learn to hold an investment through a fall you cannot explain without selling in fear, I think it turns out that you also learn to hold your own life through a season you cannot explain without falling apart. The market just gives you a smaller, faster, lower stakes room in which to practice the very same skill. So, when that reader asked me where the market is headed this year, the honest answer, or the only one I actually know and own, is that I do not know. I have never known. 23 years in, I understand less and less about the future than I thought I did on the day I started, and I have never felt calmer about it. And I do not see that as a failure of my investment education. In fact, I think that is my education. And that's the beauty of investing and of life. The good part was never in the knowing, it was always in the not knowing, which is what makes tomorrow worth looking forward to. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you in the next one.